develop many important e-governance solutions for the government across the country. We also have a Kerala Blockchain Academy, and we have a workshop in Kerala Blockchain Academy of last year, which is center of excellence in the emerging area of blockchain. And today it is considered to be a leading center of blockchain research and application in the country. I'm sure that the next 3 days you spend in the conference and interacting with the faculty and researchers and students will give you an opportunity to understand more about the institute, its activities, and to deliver it and leverage on the research work which our professors do. Every conference we know is a learning opportunity. In addition to sharing our knowledge and findings to push the scientific frontier further, it also provides an opportunity to understand the current trends in the industry, academia, and it also provides rich seeds for the further research. And it also provides a huge professional networking opportunity for all of us to hone our skills, further explore collaborative research, and to move further. I'm sure CoCoNet 2019 and CAN 19 will provide you apt platforms for furthering the knowledge base for each of us and facilitate any collaborative communication. We hope we'll be able to receive many of you back in the future when this conference becomes full-fledged in a future conference also, or in future be a part of your future academic endeavors. With a brief introduction, let me go into my pleasant duty of welcoming the guests, dignitaries for this inaugural session. We have Mr. M. Shivshankar IAS, the person who leads the IT development in the state. He's also the board member of IIITM-Kerala. As Secretary of Department of Electronics and Information Technology, he has put up a grand vision of converting the state into a knowledge economy and focusing on many areas where IIITM has got expertise on. And we are very happy that when we are moving to this campus on the very first day, the inaugural ceremony, we have Mr. Shivshankar as our chief guest to inaugurate this session. On behalf of all of us here, let me give you a warm welcome to Mr. Shivshankar. Mr. Guy Guidrich is the Vice President Global Innovation Officer at Cisco
in a program of keynote talks, community sessions, lightning talks, tutorial sessions, symposiums, around 15 symposiums, best paper sessions, posters, workshops, doctoral consortium, panel discussion, out of the press, beds of other sessions, demos, and exhibits. The conference has been indexed by Scopus, Web of Science, and IIITM-Kerala. CoCoNet'19 convenes a well-tailored and hand-picked collection of Indian speakers from renowned institutions in and outside India. CoCoNet'19 comprises almost 11 cooperative symposiums. ACN 19 features 4 co-located symposiums, namely Southern International Symposium on Security and Computing and Communication, SSCC 19, Symposium on Machine Learning and Mental Health Algorithms, and Application Summer 19. 5th International Symposium on Signal Processing and Intelligent Recognition Systems, SARS 19 and 5th International Symposium on Engineering System Technologies and Applications, ISTA 19. As part of Symposium on Women in Computing and Informatics, a panel discussion is being organized to motivate young women candidates to trade the arrows paths to attain success in their area of research. On the fourth day, the conference concludes with a workshop organized by the Kerala Blockchain Academy, KBA, at IIITM Technopark campus. The event's response to the call for papers received from the authors belonged to almost 40 different countries around the globe, summed up to 949 submissions. The papers are subject to rigorous review process by considering the significance, novelty, technical quality of submission. The papers have been reviewed by a minimum of 3 reviewers. The papers are scheduled for presentations on in different sessions, namely best paper sessions, regular paper sessions, short paper sessions, and poster paper sessions. All the accepted papers of CoCoNet'19, main pack, poster pack, doctoral consortium, and co-located symposiums will be published by elsewhere as a special issue in the Procedia Computer Science Journal indexed by Scopus. The proceedings of ACN 19 and its co-located symposiums will be published by Springer in Lecture Notes in Network and Systems, and Springer in Communications, and Communications in Computer and Information Science, CDCCS, respectively. The selected best papers will be published as a special section in the Journal of Intelligent and Fuzzy Systems, GIFS iOS Press, which has an SJ impact factor of 1.637. The accomplishment of the motives of the conference is fueled by the tireless efforts of 3 individuals. We would like to express our sincere gratitude to Dr. Sanjeev Govila, our director, for his continued support and cooperation he has extended to all of us. We would like to express our gratitude to the TPC members, additional reviewers who shared their technical expertise and assisted us in reviewing all the submitted papers. We would like to thank all the general conference chairs, organizing committee members, steering committee, keynote speakers, tutorial speakers, workshop organizers, reviewers, and the conference attendees. We would like to thank all the others. The IDA's conference system proved very helpful during the submission, review, editing phases, and generation of the proceeding. We express our sincere thanks to our sponsors, KSKP, and the ICPOs for their support. We express our wholehearted appreciation to the contributions of all those who have shared their valuable time for the success of CoCoNet'19. We thank all of the attendees for making the conference a success. We express our sincere thanks to Kerala Blockchain Academy for their support for organizing the workshop. Last but not least, we would like to thank the registrar, the IITM, administration section, and staff for providing support, and the student volunteers who work around the clock. Hope all of you would benefit from the scholarly sessions that showcase novel ideas and technical collaborations. Wishing you a practical days ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Asatoma Sadgamaya, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, Vityoma Amritamgamaya. Let the light of knowledge remove the darkness of ignorance. I invite all the dignitaries on the dais to light the lamp and officially mark the start of this conference.
I now invite Shri M. Shivashankar IAS, Secretary, Department of Electronics and Information Technology, Government of Kerala, for the inaugural address. Sir, please.
Dr. Dai Reddy, Professor Dalchi, Professor Reddy Sindhu, Dr. Isma Shirley, Dr. Sabu Tambi, Professor CoCoNet'19, delegates and friends. I'm extremely happy to be here today to formally inaugurate CoCoNet'19 and Applied and Soft Computing Communication Network ACN-19 conference scheduled today. It's very important and very noteworthy perhaps. We are doing this conference in a building which is not yet inaugurated. So I was telling Guy Idris, we are trying to see through this conference what are the limitations of the infrastructure we have and really test it out to the maximum. And then you learn what all needs to be corrected. The only thing they could observe so far has been that the audio system is working well. And usually in all academic institutions, we have a huge problem with the audio not working or the echo not being there. Audience can hear something, people sitting on the dais will hear something else. Apparently, this seems to be working smoothly. So I think that is great stuff to begin with. As a person who has seen this particular building come up brick by brick, right from the foundation times, and the trauma which went through at each stage. When we started this building, we laid the foundation and started piling. We discovered that we have located this building on a huge clay deposit, rich clays beneath this building. So we ensured that since it's an academic institution, we wanted to ensure that the clay doesn't surface up. So we had a very deep piling done, and that actually took us quite a bit of time. The foundation was done. That actually overestimated, short all our estimations. The building was done, and at every stage we had challenges, but finally we have a beautiful campus. And this people who have seen the earlier campus and how we have worked out of this earlier campus for the last 20 years will really appreciate what a beautiful thing which we have right now. By no means this is sufficient. I do hope to IIITM goes to greater glory from this new premises. As I was indicating earlier in my conversation with Dr. Beatrice, and obviously as Professor Darchain and Professor Reason will be very aware of, India's role in the global ICT system, or the emerging knowledge economy as we call it, is primarily going to be the talent pool which the country is going to provide. And that is an area where IIITM and in Kerala we have taken a lot of effort to ensure that we have the right talent and the right set of skill sets to steer the globe and the larger humankind into the IR 4.0 knowledge economy regime, which we expect is going to unfold in the next few years. It is in this context that we have identified 5 or 6 areas of focus which we need to look at. And in Kerala, what we have identified are all areas where we have some level of inherent strengths. We have identified big data, IoT, data analytics as one stack. We have also done artificial intelligence, machine learning as another major area of intervention. Augmented reality, virtual reality, and the whole presentation type of thing is another major thing. And underlying all these things is the blockchain. Fintech is and very unique to the state. We have identified space technology because India's space program is one of the most cost-effective in the whole world, and that whole space program is headquartered in Trivandrum. And we have identified the space-related technology, both the space technology applications, which is the GIS and stuff like that, and the hardware and nano manufacturing associated with the space 2.0, etc. cutting across all these centers of excellence themes is cybersecurity. Because ultimately, each of these devices, each of the networks will have to be extremely secure and prudent. And that is the area where IIITM is giving a lot of focus on. I, as a layman, even though I claim to have a technical background, I as a layman, know nothing about security. I only know that when I was in college, we used to have computing done in mainframe. Then we had computing done in desktop or laptop. Then computing was done in the cloud. I don't know what it means. And then now we say that computing is being done in the fog. And I hope soon computing will be done in the dew and the mist. And I have no clue about the direction it is taking. But I realize that wherever computing is done, security is an important thing. And we have people. I was just listening to Dr. Saji introducing a large Professor Jain as well as Professor Ravi Sundu. So I hope you have an excellent panel of dignitaries here. We're very fortunate to have Dr. Guy Dietrich was here on a different mission. So he was supposed to have interacted with all of us at a different level. But since the conference was happening, so we requested him to kindly address the conference, and we very gracefully agreed to that at a very short notice. We're extremely thankful to you, Dr. Guy, for doing this, and I hope this session has very interesting, provides you very interesting insights in this whole world of security, network communication, and soft computing. I wish the conference all success. I hope IIITM grows from strength to strength from this new campus, and I hope more conferences do happen in this building, more and knowledge, the pursuit of knowledge really takes on a very serious turn, and I do hope the audio keeps working very well. Thank you very much. Distinguished guests on the panel, I would like to excuse myself because I need to reach Trivandrum back at this meeting at 11 o'clock. So, with your permission, may we leave this meeting, sir. Wish you all the best. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I now invite Dr. Guy Dietrich, Vice President and the Global Innovation Officer, Cisco Systems USA, for the keynote address. Sir, please.
Well, thank you. It's an honor to be here. As the IT Secretary mentioned, I run a program called Country Digital Acceleration. It's a very different program from what you might think Cisco would be into. And I'm going to take a few minutes and talk you through the CDA program and then address some of the interesting security issues that we're seeing around the world. First, I'd like to acknowledge my colleagues, Anil Nair, a son of Kerala, and he runs our CDA program in APJC, and then Harish Krishnan, an adopted son of Kerala, resident here, and he runs all of our government affairs for India. We're here to talk about something that's not going to be particularly technical, and I know that this is a very technical conference. We have distinguished colleagues here that are going to go into some extraordinary depth around some research and some discoveries, some innovations. Each one of you may be responsible for a whole suite of your own. What I wanted to talk about today was the ramifications of that, what it means on the ground around the world. So you can actually see the results and the impacts of what you're doing. Now, the Country Digital Acceleration Program was born about 4.5 years ago. It was a result of a single meeting between President Hollande, at the time the President of France, his Prime Minister, Mr. Valls, and Cisco. And what we realized is that they had invested an awful lot of money into a national digital agenda. And they had announced it to much fanfare to the people of France. and it was going nowhere. And it was going nowhere for the simple reason that there was no execution plan. And so we stepped in and we helped them. And it went so well, they actually put it into, gave the responsibility to a relatively obscure economy minister named Macron, who we worked with for a while, and he became, of course, the president of France and took the program nationwide. Now, if you look at what we actually did, we created a process whereby you can extract the value from, thank you, you can extract the value from these national digital agendas. You can build execution plans, you can build budgets and architectures around them, and actually have a cohesive way of moving forward. Percent of the world's GDP, and at the president or prime minister level, that a country has an awful lot of foresight and drive and vision, and that leadership and that government is prepared to invest in its own people, in its own academic institutions, in its own industry, and in the public sector in itself. If those criteria are met, we move forward. And so far, as I say, 32 countries have signed up. Now, what is this about? It's about taking what is next generation technologies and making them real. It's about taking university research and turning it into opportunities and companies and jobs growth and GDP growth and creating a sustainable innovation ecosystem. You can see the 32 countries listed up there, and it'll soon be 33, and then 34, and then 35. India was number 5. And you can see it's not all the usual suspects. What's interesting there is to see all the up-and-comers. Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, Austria, Luxembourg. Not exactly technology heavyweights, right? But they are seizing the opportunity of the digital age. Now, to date, in these 32 countries, we have completed over 500 pilots or proofs of concept. Many of those have become scaled projects across the country. And they cover all manner of discipline. They cover healthcare, education, cybersecurity, IoT, 5G, tourism. You can name energy, oil and gas. Name the subject, and we've done a digitization project in it. One of the things that we realize is that without 3 people at the table, 3 entities at the table, we will fail. Those 3 entities are academia, government, and industry. Every single program that we do starts at the president or prime minister level, quickly gets to the minister and secretary level, and then it gets to the level of industry, academia, and government workers. Without those 3, there is extreme failure, and we've learned that too. Now, not all 500 of the projects have been successful. We employ the Silicon Valley method of failure. Fail fast, preferably not often, and learn from those failures. And that's what we do. We take a lot of shots on goal. We do some amazingly innovative things in places that you wouldn't necessarily think are innovative. Now, what is the ultimate goal here? The ultimate goal is to have a rising tide that lifts all boats. By that I mean, if we invest in these countries, if we invest in academia, in great research, in startup companies, in visions of visionary leaders, then a country is going to be poised for prosperity and excellence throughout the digital age. Now, the digital age is an overused term, right? We talked about the information age. That's where many of us grew up in technology. That went from about 1990 to 2010. And during that period, it was the greatest period of prosperity the world's known, except for immediate post-World War II. In the United States, in India, in the EU, straight throughout the world, incredible prosperity coming from technology. And of course, the fear was that all of this new technology, all of this information coming at us, all these new computers, going to take away all of these jobs, right? We were all going to be replaced. What ended up happening? Of course, massive prosperity, massive new education opportunities, and a surplus on the labor market of technology professionals as we went through. Those have been absorbed. We now are in the digital age. The digital age, whereas the information age could be characterized as connecting people, which Cisco was a big part of. Digital age is all about connecting people and things, lots and lots of things. You look at Cisco today, Cisco has about 70% of the world's traffic passing through its equipment. We stop 20 billion cyber attacks per day. We stop 5 times as many cyber attacks every single day as there are Google searches. And it's getting worse. We'll talk about security in a minute, but I wanted to draw the distinction between the information age, connecting people, the digital age, connecting things. Today, there are 27 billion connected things, give or take. By 2030, there's going to be 500 billion connected things. In 2022, there will be more data created than in the 32 years previously combined. It gives you an idea of what we're up against. Now, of course, we have things like 5G. We have bigger pipes. We have AI, we have ML, we have IoT, and every other acronym coming down the pike. It's going to fundamentally change the way we live, work, play, learn, and operate. Cisco just announced a new project called Silicon One. It's a programmable chip that allows you to draw no distinction between routers and switches. It is seamless. It is the next generation of connectivity and management of networks. That's just the start of combining silicon, optics, and software in a seamless fashion. That's what's going to be required moving forward. In terms of security, as we create all of these new connections and all of these new opportunities, security is no longer going to be allowed to sit around or on the outside of applications. That's our big flaw right now. Why is it so easy to break into the United States government? Well, very simply because we still rely on firewalls. Walls are meant to be penetrated, overcome. In order to move forward and address the current security challenges, those 20 billion attacks that are stopped every day just at Cisco, security's got to be embedded in the network. Right, why did we create firewalls? We created firewalls because we could not embed security in the apps, in the applications itself. We could not embed security in the network. Well, Cisco has now, and others are following quickly. That is the future. It is security at the very transaction level. Every single individual transaction has security associated with it. Now, if you look at the one thing that is consistent across all 32 countries for whom we are granted the privilege of helping digitize, it's security. I don't care if you are the smallest of countries with a minimal GDP. and a desire to emerge on the world stage. You are threatened by cyber attack, by cyber terrorists. They don't know borders. Right? That's the interesting thing about this. And people think that they can just draw a wall around their border and be secure. We in this room know that that is the furthest thing from the truth. Cyber attackers don't know borders. They don't acknowledge them. So what does that mean in practice? It means that we have to create a global approach to security. And the security companies aren't helping us. And by that, I mean there are over 3,000 of them around the world. Do you know that the average enterprise has between 50 and 70 individual security vendors protecting them? Each individual vendor, each individual technology doesn't talk to the other. So effectively what we're doing in every single case is building this long chain of individual links that don't connect. And for lack of a better way of putting it, all that means is that the bad guys find those spaces, those interstitial spaces, the weakest link, that weakest point. They penetrate, go horizontal, and you're toast. So when I talk about a unified security approach, I'm talking about creating, instead of a linked chain, maybe think of it as a steel pipe. And it's a pipe that no longer is bound by these false dimensions of walls or borders. It's global, it is pervasive, and it's one that lets you understand that we've got to have open access. We have to be able to share. Because if we don't, if we have 3,000 individual competitors, any 70 at any one time that are part of a security regimen inside a company, we're just leaving ourselves infinitely vulnerable. So if you look at the future of what we're trying to create with these 32 countries, soon to be 33, 34, 35, as I say, we're trying to create a network of networks, a global network of protection and access. Because after all, what is the digital age? We like to talk about all of the new technologies that are emerging. But really, what is it? The digital age is about access. It's about making sure that this time around, no one's left behind. Because there are no more excuses. We know that. You look at this map. It's got this huge continent called Africa, which is untouched. And there are many reasons for that. But that's going to change over the next 10 years. That map, that continent is going to be blue as the United States, as blue as the EU, as blue as India, as blue as anybody. No one's going to get left behind this time because we need everyone. What is the big challenge moving forward with regard to security? It's not so much the technology, because the technology is amazing and it's moving pretty fast, right? At Cisco, we always look for holy grails. What's going to happen? What's the thing that's going to fundamentally disrupt the industry? And in our case, related to security, it was embedding security in the network, but it was also detecting malware in encrypted packets without decrypting the packet. And we can do that. That's one of those holy grail moments, right? Because encrypted packets are the friend of malware and the friend of cyber terrorists. But we've studied trillions of them, trillions of packets. And there is just the slightest variation in a packet, in its behavior, if it's carrying malware, and if it's not. It's happens instantly. If it is bad, if it is carrying malware, we can exploit it. We can study it. We can track it. It's a different world, right? And it never stops. It never stops evolving. So it's not about the technology. The technology is going to be there, right? Companies like Cisco, startups in this room, researchers in this room are going to assure that. The challenge is talent, intellectual capital. Today, we are 3.5 million professionals short of demand in cybersecurity. And think about that. I started programming in 1985. And I started a software company in 1989. We did process optimization software, which is a really hard thing to sell back in 1989, trust me. But there were enough people that were sufficiently scared to not be in the software game that they said yes. We were able to build a business, 130 programmers, not a huge one, a small business, and we were able to sell it. We sold it back in 1998. If you had told me in 1998 that the jobs of the future were going to be in cybersecurity, I probably would have said, what's that? Because really it's a job, it's a profession, it's a concern, it didn't exist. Now, we're 3.5 million short. The jobs of the future that many of you, the younger ones in the room, will have, some of the older ones, your children, will have, haven't been invented yet. Because we're about to go through this massive sea change. And it's the people in this room and it's professionals, especially in academia, that are going to be the movers and shakers, the impactors of that future. Why is that? Because companies like Cisco have R&D budgets, but they're fixed, right? We're for-profit companies, like many of the big boys. All of the great ideas, all of the true innovations come from basic research. And we can't forget that. It's why academia and academic researchers have a seat at the table in every single one of these countries. So I'm going to end there in terms of my comments and open it up for Q&A. I thank you very much for your attention. I thank you very much for having me here today. It's a real honor and a pleasure. Any questions?
Sir,
Yes, sir.
could you please talk more about that chip you are talking about, which has software and hardware and the network?
Right. So I don't put everybody to sleep. I'm going to ask you to do a search on Cisco Silicon One. Now, just a very quick introduction to it. One of the things that Cisco realized along the way, and this was back in 2014, is that software is a part of the solution, optical is part of the solution, but so is silicon. And by solution, I mean the solution to this incredible amount of traffic that we're going to have to handle. Again, 2022, more data is going to be created and managed than the 32 years previously combined, cumulative. So, what are we going to do about that? How are we going to handle all of that data? Well, Cisco predicted it in 2018 and bought a company called Label in Israel. And charged them with creating a programmable chip for the future of the internet, redefining the fundamental economics of what we all do for a living, redefining the economics of the internet. And what does that mean? Well, there's a lot of different ways that it's redefining it, but I'll give you a simple one. And this is one that comes directly from industry and we all face it. For every dollar of CapEx that we spend on the network, we spend $5 on OpEx. That's not a sustainable business model for where we're going in the future. What we have to do is we have to reduce that CapEx, increase the value and capacity and latency in terms of being more responsive. Dramatically decrease power consumption. And ultimately provide for the future. At the same time, we have to reduce that OpEx. We have to make it more simple. We have to make it more seamless. You don't have a future if you're so labor intensive in managing your network that you manage yourself into obsolescence. So that's what Silicon One is all about. And that's the marrying up of chips, optics, seams, created, seamlessly executed. Next question. Yes, sir.
And we are going to get Nigeria in that list.
Do you have an idea? As soon as Nigeria is ready. We have just, we've just had our first foray into the developing world of Africa. You see at the bottom, at the very tip there, South Africa, right? They're quite developed, they're quite ready. So we engaged, and now we're investing actively. You go up north, and you see certainly Egypt. Right? They're one of the big boys. But everything in between is dark for us. Now, let me explain where this all came from. We all know those satellite pictures, right? Of satellites that are going around the world, and it's nighttime at any given point and any given time in the world. And if it's nighttime and that satellite passes over the United States, it's lit up like a Christmas tree. You go over the EU, lit up. Huge parts of India, lit up. You get to Africa, and with the exception of a little bit of light at the top and a little bit of light at the bottom, and a few little dim things in between, it's black, it's dark. One of our goals at Cisco is to light up Africa. Because again, in the digital age, where we're going, there are no more excuses. No one gets left behind this time. Everyone should be connected. What happens when you're connected? Everything changes. Here in India, a quick example. Some of you may know where Palghar is. A couple hours outside of Mumbai. Little village in Palghar that was not connected to the rest of the world. We came in through this CDA program. We put up a tower, hung a little bit of kit on top, and connected Palghar. Well, inside Palghar, one of the things that you watch is these incredibly talented women, Worleys, that are doing their tribal art. And they're doing it on stones to hold down papers, stones to hold open doors, little purses that they sell for 50 cents each, right? That they toil over for 2 and 3 hours. And they sell them on the street corner of their little village. Well, when we connected them, first thing that happened is they created their own website with a little help. And now they're selling not only their purses and their stones, but they're selling large Worley art to the rest of the world. It's completely changed the economic future of that little village. I saw a group of schoolgirls that were dressed beautifully, right? They're walking in bare feet down dirt roads, but they had white shirts and pressed uniforms and perfectly pulled back hair and flowers in their hair, their school uniform. And just by simply connecting those girls to the rest of the world during their school years, those are going to be your competition. They're going to be the doctors, the lawyers, the engineers, the scientists. Why? Because they got connected. So why are we so special? Why do we get the right to be connected? All right, with that, I think I'm in time. And I, again, thank you very much for your attention, and don't hesitate to reach out to me. You can do it on Twitter. I'm at Guy Diedrich. And if you do want to follow, I hate this, but because my first tweet that I've ever done was a week and a half ago. I've been on Twitter since 2011. I've been in technology my entire life. I never could think of a value proposition for why to use it, right? All I remember coming from academia in the last 10 years was having to turn down students for scholarships and admission because of what they had posted online. It's true. That's the practical value of social media to me in my mind. But I was convinced to go ahead and start doing it because we're doing unique things around the world. And we have this very unique view of the world, a very privileged perch to see all around the world what people are doing in the digital age, how digitization is impacting lives, how cybersecurity is evolving, the threats, the opportunities, the weaknesses around the world. And so that's what the Twitter site is going to be all about. It's going to be about posting the evolution of the digital age from a global perspective. You can get me there. You can get me online. If you have questions or want to collaborate in any way, you please let me know. And again, thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much. I now invite Dr. Raj Jain, Professor of Computer Science and Engineering, Washington University, St. Louis, for the guest of honor address.
So, thank you. It is really great to speak after Diedrich. Cisco is one of the sponsors of my research, so I'm really grateful to them. And I hope you will get the same benefit from him here. But when I was invited to CoCoNet' conference in Trivandrum, I easily accepted it. And when I went to write it, I felt that the spelling was mistaken somehow, you know. And so I want to talk about CoCoNet' right now first. Then we'll come back to CoCoNet'. So CoCoNet' actually has kept India attractive to Arabians. You know, basically they came to India from Arabia, from Europe, and every other place for tea and coconuts and things like that. And in fact, Portuguese came to Kerala just for that reason. And for 5,000 years, we have exported coconuts, and the Kerala is the Kera Alam, the land of the coconuts, right? But we don't like that anymore. We want to move away. So we have CoCoNet'. So replacing net from nuts is very, very important. Okay? And so these three guys over there, sitting over there, they played a game. They said, okay, let's call this conference CoCoNet'. Okay? And so we want to move away from agricultural economy to the net economy. And that's what this conference is all about. That's where our next 50 years will be done. And since they could not fit a name to CoCoNet', they called it, okay, let's call it Conference on Computing with CoCo and Network Communication with the third CO silent. Okay? So that's what it is all about, okay? Now I have a 15-minute, one full hour lecture right after this. So I will leave rest of the entertainment for them. And thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. For the guest of honor address, I now invite Professor Devi Sandhu, Executive Director and Chief Scientist, Institute of Cybersecurity, Professor of Computer Science, University of Texas at San Antonio, USC. Sir, please.
Well, Raj Jain is always a tough act to follow. So I'm not going to get into the history of Kerala or CoCoNet' versus CoCoNut. Just howdy from Texas. Glad to be here. It's a pleasure. It's my first time in Trivandrum. And coming here from Delhi, I spent a few days in Delhi first before coming down south. It's a welcome change in weather, I'll say that. Delhi has gone through some very cold weather. And also on the day we left, there was this continued agitation there. So India is poised at sort of a critical point. I mean, there's so much potential here, so many young people, so much talent. Like our chief guest in the morning said that, really what India can contribute to the world is a huge talent pool. And institutions like IIITM-K are critical in developing that talent pool. But at the same time, India also needs innovation to solve its own problems. Advances in India, but there's also still a lot of poverty. There are a lot of people who need to be connected, perhaps using CBA kind of initiatives. So it's a good time to be young in India, and I'm glad to have this opportunity to spend some time and get to know a little bit on it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I now invite Dr. Elizabeth Shirley, Senior Professor of IIITM-K, to propose the vote of thanks.
Respect to all dignitaries on the dais and off the dais. Welcome again, all of you, to the third International Conference on Computing and Network Communications, CoCoNet' 2019, and ACN, to one of the most beautiful and calmest cities of India, having most attractive tourist destination with all natural beauties and with the less air pollution. As you know, that CoCoNet has now become one of the successful conferences by attracting most respectful speakers, delegates, and of course, the course of the conferences with a number of symposiums co-located with the latest technologies. I deemed a great honor to propose a vote of thanks to all who are present here to making this CoCoNet a pleasurable and rewarding one. As you know that Sri Shiv Shankar, IAS Secretary, Department of Electronics and IT, Government of Kerala, he has inaugurated the conferences and basis occasion with his tight schedule. He is left for the day. But as a token of gratitude, thank you, sir, for your precious time spent with us and that make our conference more cheerful and meaningful. I would like to propose vote of thanks to our chief guest of the day, Dr. Gurray Rich, Vice President of Global Innovation Officer, Cisco Systems. As our director has mentioned, his role in digitizing the private and public sectors and to increase GDP, and later in his presentation on this topic has emphasized about the role of Cisco in connecting people all over the country, and I think that the next is Nigeria. Looking forward, and thank you for your wonderful speech, and also is an exceptional address for all of us. Thank you, sir. Okay, I would like to thank our distinguished guest of honor, Dr. Raj, Professor, Washington University in St. Louis, USA, for making a very crisp and very interesting talk. Hope that we strove that we have made a revolutions or transition from coconut to CoCoNet, and that will also become an economy of our stage. So thank you very much, sir, for your very wonderful and interesting talk. It's a matter of pleasure to express our thanks to Dr. Ravi Sandhu, University of Texas in St. Louis, USA, for his valuable presence and gracing this function with a very crisp and innovative talk. Thank you So as a token of love, please accept our resolution. I express our profound gratitude to our director, Professor Sajid Gopinath, for his inspiring leadership. Hard to make it happen. Thank you, sir, for your all. Nothing ever comes without hard work and dedication. The general chair and coordinator of the program of the conference. Thanks a lot, Dr. Sabu. I extend my gratitude to all invited distinguished speakers and delegates. I know that we all are waiting for this, make all of us knowledgeable. I must mention our deep sense of appreciation to IITM faculty members, staff, systems and technical members for their sincere services and of course organizers who are putting their blood and soul to make this event a grand success. We are also grateful to all sponsoring agencies, volunteers and students of IITM who have been running around for doing a lot of things. Last but not the least, I once again thank you and for your all your cooperation. Enjoy and have a pleasant stay over here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Let's break for tea for 20 minutes and come back for the next keynote session by Professor Rajji. Thank you all.